dice and just compromise. It's the chance of your life. Okay, try to be brave. You have so much to save. Take control of your own life. Right now, every mistake makes you feel like a fake. Take control of your own life. Without any thought, I keep moving on. I don't even care if my soul is gone. So many words that I should have said. Not concerned about how to live instead. Just open your eyes and take my advice. Stop rolling the dice and just compromise. It's the chance of your life. Okay, try to be brave. You have so much to save. Take control of your own life. Right now, every mistake makes you feel like a fake. Take control of your own life. Nothing in life is good. Tied in with feel better on the weekend. Give my life a better meaning. Let me stay where I'm in phase. I feel better on the weekend. I feel better on the weekend. Give my life a better meaning. Let me stay where I'm in phase. I feel better on the
Welcome to Cyber Threat Intel, your go-to source for the latest updates, news, and insights on cyber threats. Our goal is to arm you with the knowledge to protect yourself in the digital age, whether you're a cybersecurity professional or just curious about the threats lurking in the digital shadows. Make sure to subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast listening platform to join us on the front lines of cybersecurity, because in the world of cyber threats, knowledge is power. Hey, welcome to Cyber Threat Intel. I'm your host, John Good. This is episode number 20. It is Thursday, April 18th, 2024. Glad to have you for this episode. I know we're getting close to the weekend. We're almost there. We have one more day, and then you will be there, and you will be able to relax and do whatever you want to enjoy the weekend and recharge for yet another week of cybersecurity or whatever your job is. Working in tech, if you're a student, whatever, right? All of those things, it doesn't matter. We still love the weekend. We still love getting to that point. But until then, we've got to stay on top of things and keep learning. So if you are new to the show, first of all, welcome. Glad to have you here, whether that's on a podcast or if you're watching the live stream or if you're watching the on-demand replay, doesn't matter. Glad to have you here. Typically what we do here for this show is we will give people a few minutes to kind of trickle in and join the show, tune in, and we'll go through some show notes. We'll kind of kick things off, and then we'll start with the cyber threat intel that you need to know for the day. So with that being said, if you are trying to find the show, right, depending on where you're listening or watching from, we're available in all kinds of different formats. So first of all, we'll always be on YouTube. That is like our home base, right? So on the John Good Cyber YouTube channel, you can find us there, or you can also find this episode on my profile for LinkedIn, so John Good Cyber. You can also find us on the John Good Cyber Twitter profile, so you can find the live stream and on-demand replay there, as well as the John Good Cyber page on Facebook. So if video or live stream is your thing, that's where you want to check it out. If you're interested in audio podcasting format, then you can go to your favorite platform, Spotify, iTunes, whatever it is, right? Like there's a whole bunch of them, and just search for Cyber Threat Intel, and you can find the audio-only version on there as well. The other way that you can find us is if you go to cyberthreatintel.com, again, cyberthreatintel.com, you can find all the platforms that we're on there. It will list them all out for you, and you can just go directly to that. You can also find the article feed on the website. So if you're interested in the articles that we cover, maybe you want to read a little bit more about them. Maybe you're interested in articles from other episodes, or you want to see other articles that we think are important. That's all on the article feed. And you can go there and you can check it out and see all the different articles on that feed. You can also see highlights that we make, or if we make special notes about something, it's all on that feed. So really, really useful. Now, if you have professional certifications, make sure that you're claiming half a CPE for every episode that you tune in for. Every episode, half a CPE, right? So over the course of a year, 4 times per week, that'll get you your CPEs or your continuing education credits really quickly, right? That's 2 a week. So if you did it every week, and if we had the stream every week, right? 52 weeks in a year, well, that's over 100 credits that you can claim for your continuing education credits for your certifications. So CISSP, Security Plus, whatever it is, right? There's a whole bunch of other ones. Don't miss out on that value, right? That's free value that you can claim for those certifications to help you maintain that. And then, of course, you got to pay the maintenance fee. That's always a fun thing to do. But at least you're getting the credits for free, right? If you wait to the very end of the year, that's going to be a struggle to get them. I've been there for sure, and that is not a fun situation to be in. You've got to scramble and put in a ton of work all at once, and that's just not a good way to do it. Get your credits every week, every day that you tune into the show. So, and Jeffrey Christian says, I'm here. Jeffrey, welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad that you could join us. Glad to see when people return to the stream and our frequent viewers. Love seeing that. Love seeing new viewers too, right? Love seeing people just join in and tune into the show as we're growing. So that is always a great thing. Now, with that being said, we do have some more people that are tuning into the show and that will kind of join us in the next couple minutes here. So while we do have that happening, let's take a second to talk about our sponsor for this segment, which is Cyber Training Pro, and I will see you on the other side. Are you tired of overpaying for cybersecurity training? Are you interested in training from industry professionals? Are you looking for cybersecurity career services? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then cybertrainingpro.com is the perfect platform for you. At Cyber Training Pro, we're a one-stop shop for all your cybersecurity needs. We can train you for industry certifications or just improve your overall knowledge and skills in a certain area. Unlike other platforms, we don't stop there. We can also coach you throughout your career, practice your interview skills, or create a high-performing resume with our career services. CybertrainingPro.com isn't just another training platform. Students get exclusive access to our private community, where we go beyond training courses to provide additional content, tips and tricks, and engagement with both other students and staff. Look, by the year 2025, there could be as many as 3.5 million job openings in cybersecurity. With so much opportunity, why not maximize your career potential with a platform that cares about your success? Come join us at cybertrainingpro.com and start building your future today. All right, thanks to Cyber Training Pro for sponsoring this. We love our sponsors. Sponsors help make all this content free for you, the end user, the consumer, the viewer of this content who needs it for your professional career. So we always love thanking our sponsors because we appreciate what they do. We also encourage you to check out our sponsors and let them know that you appreciate what they do as well, because that is what helps keep everything going. And that's what helps us keep continuing to give you awesome content. So very, very helpful. If you're a company and you're stumbling upon this show and you're interested in sponsoring content, make sure to check out the description. There is more information there about how you can kick that conversation off and sponsor some content yourself. And welcome to Packet Watchdog. Just joined the stream. Glad to have you. Another familiar face. Always good time, right? So with that being said, also make sure to grab your Cyber Threat Intel merch. I'm holding a mug if you're listening to the podcast, but make sure to grab that so you can support the show as well. There's also some other designs on there too. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into the articles and kick things off.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
All right. So first article here, Russian disinformation efforts around U.S. elections kicked into gear over the last 45 days, according to Microsoft. Russia's disinformation operations around the U.S. elections have ramped up over the last month and a half after a relatively slow start compared to previous cycles, Microsoft said on Wednesday. There's a quote here: messaging regarding Ukraine via traditional media and social media picked up steam over the last 2 months with a mix of covert and overt campaigns from at least 70 Russia-affiliated activity sets we track, Microsoft's Threat Analysis Center, MTAC, explained in the new report. This is another quote here. Each Russian actor has shown the capability and willingness to target English-speaking and in some cases Spanish-speaking audiences in the U.S., pushing social and political disinformation meant to betray Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, as unethical and incompetent, Ukraine as a puppet or failed state, and any American aid to Ukraine as directly supporting a corrupt and conspiratorial regime, they said. So we've seen a lot of these campaigns over the time that these conflicts with Ukraine and Russia have been going on, right? We've seen a lot of different things that have happened, right? Whether that is different ransomware groups or malware groups or politically motivated groups on both sides, groups outside of those countries, groups that are supporting one of those countries, right? We've seen a lot of different things, but we have also seen election interference in countries like the United States and other countries too. But obviously, most notable, the United States, especially in consideration of this article. And we know that that the United States has shown support for Ukraine, right? And so it's not necessarily out of the realm of likelihood that something like this would happen. But think about this too. It's like as elections start to go digitized or start to leverage some of these other systems, right? If you have countries like Russia who can impact that, whether that is creating propaganda and spreading that through means like social media, that becomes a huge concern, right? Now, as a company, right, your product or service that you're providing, whatever you're doing, how are you combating that, right? We've also seen these social media platforms go before Congress and have to testify about what they're doing as far as measures to stop some of this stuff or combat this stuff. And it's this never-ending cycle that is relatively difficult in some situations to actually prevent, right? What if it is kind of embedded messaging or subliminal messaging that's kind of built into some of these ads? How do you identify that? What are your review cycles like for that content? What kind of controls do you have in place that prevent somebody from subverting those approval workflows or those controls that you have in place, right? So there are definitely some cybersecurity or security concerns in relation to this, and there always will be, right? We live in a digital world, so getting away from cybersecurity in general is not something that you can do. Now, this article also says Microsoft noted that ex-Ukrainian parliamentarian and U.S. sanctioned Russian agent Andrei Derkach, is that how you say it? Who spearheaded a disinformation campaign against U.S. President Joe Biden in 2020, reemerged on social media in January after nearly 2 years offline. So this person, right, kind of disappeared for a little bit and then now is reappearing. That is certainly suspicious, right? And it's interesting too how this persona, right, in today's world of digital just presence, how somebody can just disappear for a while and then come back conveniently, right? It's always interesting. Microsoft reiterated previous concerns that state actors in Russia, China, and Iran have been honing their skills with generative artificial intelligence to unleash a barrage of deepfakes and other deceptive material. So that's the other thing we've seen, right? With artificial intelligence, we've seen content that is being generated that is fake content, right? Somebody didn't actually say something or didn't actually do something, but it's able to be created through these uses of artificial intelligence. So it's kind of that thing where you create some technology or some product or service that is useful, right? But it has dual uses. And then there's all these kind of controversial or other considerations that you have to make as far as those products and services, right? That goes with a lot of different products and services, right? There's all kinds of things out there that have dual uses that you have to think about how it will be used, even though if that's not how you intended it to be used, somebody might use it that way, right? And that's an important thing that you have to think about. All right, moving on here. Next article, various botnets pummel year-old TP-Link flaw in IoT attacks. A number of botnets are pummeling a nearly year-old command injection vulnerability in a TP-Link routers to compromise the devices for IoT-driven distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks. There already is a patch for the flaw tracked to CVE 2023-1389 found in the web management interface of the TP-Link Archer AX21, AX1800 Wi-Fi router and affecting devices with version 1.1.4, build 2023019 or prior. However, threat actors are taking advantage of unpatched devices to dispatch various botnets, including Mubot, Miro. These names are so ridiculous. Okay, that group of them, right? Variants and variants of the infamous. I can't get over these names, right? It's just like make it something catchy, right? If you're doing this and you're naming these, you should go through a marketing like class or something so you can make something that at least is like catchy, right? That can compromise the devices for DDoS and further nefarious activity, according to a blog post from FortiGuard Labs Threat Research. So it is not uncommon, obviously, for attackers to go after end-of-life devices that aren't patched, obsolete devices, all kinds of things like that, right? They're going to go after the low-hanging fruit. So if you're using a device like this and you don't patch it, you don't have it in that patch management lifecycle, well, then yeah, no wonder you're going to get breached because you have these devices that you're not even worrying about. A lot of times too, what about your IoT devices, right? Your refrigerators, your microwaves, your TVs, whatever, right? Like all of those devices that you need to patch every so often, even though it's not like a computer, right? And I'm doing that in quotes if you're listening to the audio only version, but you have to patch that stuff, right? You can't just ignore it and say, well, it's just a TV, right? Gone are those days. It is not just a TV anymore. It's probably connected if you bought it in the last few years, especially. There's a quote here. This is an unauthenticated command injection vulnerability in the locale API available via the web management interface, Lin and Lee explained. To exploit it, users can query the specified form country and conduct a write operation, which is handled by the set country function, the researchers explained. That function calls the merge config by country function and concatenates the argument of the specified form country into a command string. This string is then executed by the pop-in function. Since the country field won't be emptied, the attacker can achieve command injection, the researchers wrote. So essentially, they are just adding the command to this this function or this string that has to be executed, right? So it's always interesting to see some of these techniques, honestly, especially when they're like unpatched, end-of-life devices. People should really stay up with their technology, right? Botnet attacks that exploit device flaws to target IoT environments are relentless, the article says, and thus users should be vigilant against DDoS botnets, the researchers noted. Indeed, IoT adversaries are advancing their attacks by pouncing on unpatched device flaws, right? We just talked about that, to further their sophisticated attack agendas. Low-hanging fruit, right? Easy to repurpose and use for what their intentions are. Attacks against TP-Link devices can be mitigated by applying the available patch for affected devices, and this practice should be followed for any other IoT devices to safeguard their network environments from infection, preventing them from becoming bots for malicious threat actors, the researchers wrote. So apply the patch. Patch management. When patches are released, are you applying them, right? And if you're in an enterprise environment, one of the things that you'll notice in a patch management process or patch management policy is that you're going to do things like testing vulnerabilities or testing the patches. You're going to roll them out in phases. You're going to apply them based on criticality, right? If a vulnerability or an issue is a critical issue, then you're going to patch that before you'll patch something that is a low risk situation or a low risk vulnerability. That is how you should be making your decisions in your organization. It's based on risk. It's not based on what the perceived description or whatever of that vulnerability is. It's based on the risk, right? How does that impact the risk of your organization or your network? Does that pose a huge threat if it's exploited? How likely is that going to be exploited, right? These are all vulnerability management 101 kind of things, risk management, patch management, right? It's all tied in together with that. But these are all kind of 101 things. So kind of entry level beginner kind of pieces of information. So it's important that you understand that if you work in this field, right? In this career field. And Packet Watchdog says also change the password from default. Yeah. Don't use default credentials, right? Change those vendor provided creds. If you have a username of admin and your password is admin, you're probably going to get hacked, right? You're probably going to get breached. And then it's going to look really bad on you because that was not part of your deployment strategy to minimize the risk, right? Decade-old malware haunts Ukrainian police. More than 100 documents containing potentially confidential information related to government and police activities in Ukraine were uploaded to a publicly accessible repository recently as the result of nearly decade-old malware, an unusual case in which an old and imperfect virus has escaped detection, allowing it to persist and continue to pose a threat. The documents discovered as part of normal threat hunting activities carried out by researchers with Cisco's Talos Threat Intelligence Research Team were infected with a virus named Awful Router, so OFFL Router, which dates to 2015 and has not been examined extensively in public according to an analysis shared exclusively with Cyberscoop. In this case, Awful Router serves as a mean. See, that's a better name. That's a better name. Even though it's not completely spelled out, that's a better name. Awful Router serves as a means to deliver an executable file known as controlpanel.exe, which attempts to lower word security settings and select additional documents to infect. Vanha Savasar, outreach researcher with Talos, told Cyberscoop in an email. The virus can only be spread by sharing laced documents with removable media such as USB memory sticks and only targets files with a .doc file extension, suggesting either that the virus was created to target a small number of entities or specific files, or that the virus's author made a mistake in designing the malware. Newer versions of Word use docx file extensions, but the doc extension remains in use. So I don't know if you've seen that or if you caught that as we were talking about this extension. But yeah, current Word documents, right? If you were to go create a Word document right now, it's going to default to docx, right? That is the new version that they are using in basically everything. And then you have Excel documents with basically everything ends with an X, right? The virus is also interesting, Sevaser added, because its activity is limited to Ukraine, where Russian hacking groups are carrying out constant aggressive cyber operations, ranging from destructive activity to cyber espionage against public and private entities. The researchers could not determine who is behind the operation. So with threat intel, right, threat intelligence, the whole idea is that you're identifying these attacks or these threat actors, these incidents, these tactics, and you're trying to attribute everything to a certain group or a certain attacker, certain threat, right? Like that is the whole scenario. And that's what your ultimate objective is in a lot of these cases, because you're trying to build up a profile of these groups or of these threat actors so that you can better defend against them, right? If you understand what their motives are, what their techniques are that they use, and what they're, how they're going to do this, how they're going to accomplish it, well, then you can obviously implement controls that are going to be much more effective against those groups than if you don't do that, right? And that's one of the major goals of threat intelligence. So keep that in mind. If you're trying to get into threat intelligence, that's an important aspect of it, right? Packet Watchdog says that Windows XP file transfer picture. There was one in here. Yep. Yep. On the article, they have this picture of file transfers. I mean, they're probably running Windows XP, right? That's pretty common still. I think with Windows XP, I forget what the record is, but I know that if you connect a Windows XP to computer or system to the internet, you'll be infected like that, like instantly, right? And you just be like, no! You will face palm, yourself for sure. That will be a bad day. Don't install Windows XP and connect it to the internet. That's a bad idea. Article says 2018 awful router analysis by the Slovakian government computer security incident response team, also based on Ukrainian national police files, noted that it was rare to discover malware that looks like the first stage of some cyber operation, but currently it's not publicly known what tools on removable devices are used during the next stages and what kind of organizations are targeted in the campaign. So it sounds like, based on what this article is saying, right, they think this is an older technique, an older strategy for whoever created this malware, or maybe they used an older strategy, an older technique, and they're trying to go after these really, really vulnerable systems that aren't using, current mechanisms to protect their systems, right? USB drives is one example of something that you should really prevent in your organization, right? One of the things that you can do is block USB port access. One of the concerns with USB port access in an organization in general, besides things like malware, right? Because if you block it, then you don't want things to auto execute as soon as you plug in a USB drive into the computer. But there's also the whole data loss prevention aspect of things, right? Data exfiltration. Somebody, whether it's an employee or a threat actor or a contractor from outside the organization or something, right? You don't want them to come in, plug a USB drive into the computer and copy a ton of your files and run off with it, right? There's all kinds of issues with allowing USB access or external media kind of access, right? So if I can just go plug in an external DVD drive or something like that, that could cause all kinds of issues too. All right. One thing also to keep in mind is that sometimes with this show, we do have after shows, right? Today, we're not going to have an after show, but we did have an after show yesterday. So we will have after shows after some of these shows. And with that, you can stay on and you can ask some additional questions and get some answers to those questions. So I highly recommend that. Also, check out the John Good Cyber Discord server because we are going to be having some monthly Ask Me Anythings that are only on Discord. So make sure to check out that as well. The link is in the description that you can check out for that. DDoS threat report for 2024 Q1. So there's a whole bunch of things in this report, so I'm not going to dive deep into this, but 2024 Q1 key insights. So key insights from 2024. It started with a bang. Cloudflare's defense systems automatically mitigated 4.5 million DDoS attacks during the first quarter, representing a 50% year-over-year or YOY increase. So that's pretty substantial, right? It's a lot of new DDoS attacks. Is that because there's a lot more IoT devices out there? What is the cause of that, right? DNS-based DDoS attacks increased 80% year-over-year and remain the most prominent attack vector. That's interesting if you're thinking about ways that you're going to get attacked, especially by DDoS attacks. DDoS attacks on Sweden surged by 466% after its acceptance to the NATO alliance, mirroring the pattern observed during Finland's NATO accession in 2023. So a similar kind of scenario played out, but 466% increase. That is a massive increase, and clearly a statement that somebody is trying to make by Sweden joining NATO, right? Those are always kind of interesting things that we see, and then we look at their motive of why they might be upset about that, or the things that might be impacted by that, right? Jeffrey Christian says, will there be punch and pie? I'm guessing you're talking about for the after show. Well, there's punch and pie if you bring it. Sure. Let's see, what else does our article say? The largest attack that we've mitigated so far in 2024 was launched by unwary variant botnet. This attack reached 2 terabytes per second and was aimed at an Asian hosting provider protected by Cloudflare Magic Transit. Cloudflare's systems automatically detected and mitigated the attack. That same botnet, infamous for its massive DDoS attacks, was primarily composed of infected IoT devices. It notably disrupted internet access across the US in 2016 by targeting DNS service providers. So obviously, if DNS goes down, that's a huge issue, whether that's in your organization, that's on the internet, that's with your ISP, your internet service provider, your cloud service provider, right? Like if DNS goes down, that causes a ton of issues, especially as you start having a lot of different services that are offered or things that are connected together, right? That interact with each other, because typically you're not going to hard code an IP address into something. You're going to use its DNS name, because behind the scenes, then it makes it way easier to change things out, right? Like if you have a server in your organization and you name it server 1, right? You could just point everything towards that DNS name. So server 1. And then if that server goes down, you have to replace it. Something happens, whatever, right? You get some other system. You just change the IP behind the scenes on the DNS server, say that this is server 1 now, and that is not server 1 anymore, and things just keep working like they should. But when DNS goes down, you can't query that server and you can't ask where server 1 is, right? So that causes all kinds of issues and is just a massive problem when it happens, right? That's why when you're looking at organizations or networks, DNS servers typically have backups, right? There are alternate DNS servers or name servers that you can reach out to if the primary is down. You never really want to have just a single DNS server. That's generally a bad idea, right? So there's a whole lot in this article. Again, I'm not going to dive deep into this article. There's a whole lot of graphs, all kinds of things in here that are worth checking out if this article sounds interesting to you. Packet Watchdog says, what public DNS server do you like? I mean, there's all kinds of them, right? Cloudflare, Google has some. I mean, there's so many, right? I think those are pretty common ones to use, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of them, right? Plus, in your organization, you're going to actually have internal ones too. So you're going to typically with DNS, right? If it's an internal resource, you're not going to reach out obviously to like Google or whatever DNS server and ask them where your internal resource is. You're going to reach out to your internal name server, and then you're going to query that for it. Next article here, T-Mobile, Verizon workers get texts offering $300 for SIM swaps. So SIM swap attacks are back. Criminals are now texting T-Mobile and Verizon employees on their personal work phones, trying to tempt them with cash to perform SIM swaps. Targeted employees have shared screenshots of messages offering $300 to those willing to aid the senders in their criminal endeavors. The attacker's messages claim the source of the contact information is an employee directory as first spotted by the T-Mobile report. There's a quote here, I got your number from the T-Mo employee directory. I'm looking to pay someone up to $300 per SIM swap done. If you're interested, reply and we can talk, the criminals say in the message. Charter Communication employee told Bleeping Computer one day after this article was published that they also received a text message offering $100 for an email reset. So if you don't know what SIM swap attacks are, they are pretty well known. But basically, what happens is a criminal, so somebody basically at the wireless carrier, they are able to change the SIM device. So, for instance, if you had your phone number, right, and it was attached to a certain SIM card or SIM card in a phone, then if I had a phone as well and I had it changed to my SIM card in my phone, now all of a sudden I'm getting all your messages, your phone calls, whatever, right? So, one of the things that can happen with that is in a world where we're so connected with things like multi factor authentication or two factor authentication, if I, as an attacker, can pull this off, right? I either work for the wireless carrier or I'm able to convince somebody that works for the wireless carrier to do this because you need that privilege level access generally, right? Unless you hacked into the systems. But if I'm able to pull that off, and I can get into your accounts like your email accounts or your social media accounts or whatever, right? Because now I have the phone and now I might just need to get your password, or I might have another way around that where I don't necessarily need your password. Maybe your login is only based on getting that code from your phone, right? We've seen systems like that. So it can be a really challenging kind of attack to combat if you get compromised in that way. Last year, the FBI also received 2,026 complaints about SIM swapping attacks linked to losses of $72 million, $72,652,571. In contrast, only 320 complaints reporting a SIM swapping incident with losses of roughly $12 million were filed between January 2018 and December 2020. So it's gone way up, right? 12 million up to 72 million. So that's a big increase, right? But again, SIM swap attacks are not brand new. They are kind of apparently resurging, right? They kind of disappeared for a little bit and now they are back. And Packet Watchdog says eSIMs helped mitigate this attack. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times there are always kind of technologies or things that come about that can help combat some of these kinds of attacks. But at the end of the day, right, if you're able to get into the wireless carrier somehow, either by actual access to the system, or you're able to convince an employee who has privileged access to these systems, sometimes that is unstoppable, right? Like the employees are meant to have access to change these devices and do certain things. So it's one of those things where you can have all the controls in the world, but again, the employee has legitimate access and they have the access that's needed to make some of this stuff work. Next article here, GPT-4 can exploit real vulnerabilities by reading advisories according to the register. So this is a really interesting article that's been popping up and being talked about lately. In a newly released paper for University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, computer scientists Research Fang, Rohan Bindu, Akul Gupta, and Daniel Kang report that OpenAI's GPT-4 large language model, the LLM, can autonomously exploit vulnerabilities in real-world systems if given a CVE advisory describing the flaw. That's not good, right? The quote here, when given the CVE description, so the vulnerability description, GPT-4 is capable of exploiting 87% of these vulnerabilities compared to 0% for every other model that they tested, GPT 3.5 and open source LLMs and open source vulnerability scanners, Zap and Metasploit. Denying the LLM agent GPT-4 access to the relevant CVE description reduced its success rate from 87% to just 7%. However, Kang said he doesn't believe limiting the public availability of security information is a viable way to defend against LLM agents. So they're saying access to these LLM systems, so ChatGPT or something of that sort, with enough information, we know that those models can do a lot of things, right? You're leveraging the power of that model, but the ability for that to then exploit a certain vulnerability or tell you how to exploit it, that's pretty dangerous, right? And from a security perspective, right, blocking all that information or protecting all that information does not necessarily help our world be more secure, right? People don't have access then to that information. How do they get access to that information? You're adding layers of difficulty in order to get that information and further protect your network. So, all in all, I agree that is not a great way to go about it, but we have to be concerned about this, right? We're concerned with these language models developing malware, and now we have to be concerned about them actually developing exploits or identifying ways to exploit these certain vulnerabilities. So, and Packet Watchdog says that's cool. It's cool, but on the flip side, it's a little scary, right? Because we know that these language models have tremendous amounts of compute power and abilities to do this stuff. And we're kind of removing even further that idea of you need to have certain level of technical proficiency to do this stuff, right? So we're kind of really empowering script kiddies in a sense, because now it's like I can just give it to Chat GPT and it's going to make it happen, right? So it's cool, but it's scary, right? So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because I think that as these models get more and more just advanced, right? They're just better and better over time. Things like this become more and more of a reality, right? It's no longer just a conceptual kind of white paper study. It's actually happening in the real world, right? Like once we make that transition, that's when it really starts to get scary, because like we've seen with just availability of tools, ransomware as a service, malware as a service, all of those kinds of things, right? Easier for attackers to use this stuff, the more dangerous the technology world gets, right? Because it's just available. All this stuff is available to people who are either going to pay or trade stuff or whatever the case is in order to get access to use these certain items, right? And obviously with things like AI and Chat GPT and stuff like that, the barrier is very low in order to be able to use that stuff, right? What do you have to do? Create an account. If you want to have more requests or a better model, pay $20 or something. So it's an interesting world that we're living in and kind of seeing these evolutions. So with that being said, that is the last article for this episode of Cyber Threat Intel. Again, this is episode number 20. It is Thursday, April 18th, 2024. Depending on where you're listening or watching this show, remember that if you go to cyberthreatintel.com, you can find all the different platforms that we're on. We are always on YouTube, so on the John Good Cyber channel. We are on LinkedIn for this episode, so on the John Good Cyber page. Also, John Good Cyber on Twitter or X, and then the John Good Cyber page on Facebook. So you can find us always there for the on-demand replay, or if you want to join the live stream when we're actually doing the live stream. If you want to listen on podcasts, you can just search for us on your favorite platform, Cyber Threat Intel, and you'll find us. We'll come right up. Or you go to cyberthreatintel.com. Again, cyberthreatintel.com. You can find all the platforms that we're on there, and you can find direct links to us on there as well. You can also find the article feed on there. So if you want to see these articles that we covered, or you want to see other articles that are from other episodes or that we didn't have time to cover, there's a whole bunch of information on that feed with highlights, notes, things like that. So definitely check that out. Make sure to claim your CPEs for all the shows that you're joining. So remember, half CPE for every show. And thanks to our sponsors. For this episode, it's Cyber Training Pro. But if you're interested in sponsoring content, make sure to check out the description, because there is more information about how you can kick that conversation off and sponsor content as well. So with that being said, I want to thank you for joining. If you join the live stream, if you're watching the replay or listening to the replay, thanks for tuning in as well. Still appreciate everybody that is watching and engaging in the content. But of course, we always love people when we love when people join the live stream and engage with us in real time. Remember, we are trying to do some after shows after these shows. So we will have after shows after some of these episodes, but you'll have to tune in to find out which ones those are. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for this episode. Hope you have a great rest of your week and enjoy the weekend. And we'll see you in the next episode next week. I'll see you later. Are you tired of overpaying for cybersecurity training? Are you interested in training from industry professionals? Are you looking for cybersecurity career services? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then cybertrainingpro.com is the perfect platform for you. At Cyber Training Pro, we're a one-stop shop for all your cybersecurity needs. We can train you for industry certifications or just improve your overall knowledge and skills in a certain area. Unlike other platforms, we don't stop there. We can also coach you throughout your career, practice your interview skills, or create a high-performing resume with our career services. CybertrainingPro.com isn't just another training platform. Students get exclusive access to our private community where we go beyond training courses to provide additional content, tips and tricks, and engagement with both other students and staff. Look, by the year 2025, there could be as many as 3.5 million job openings in cybersecurity. With so much opportunity, why not maximize your career potential with a platform that cares about your success? Come join us at cybertrainingpro.com and start building your future today.
Thank you.